So you've heard about the Myers-Briggs personality assessment, but you don't really know what it's all about? Or maybe you know your 4-letter personality type code, but you don't really know any more than that? Give me 5 minutes. The first thing you need to know about the Myers-Briggs Type Indicator, or MBTI, is that it's not a test. It doesn't tell you what you're good at, or what you're bad at, or how smart you are. That's why we don't call it a test. We call it an assessment or an instrument. All it does is help you identify the ways in which it's most comfortable and most natural for you to use your mind. And that's it. The MBTI was originally developed in the 1940s by Catherine Cook Briggs, an American teacher, and her daughter, Isabel Briggs Myers, and was based on the personality theories of Swiss psychologist Carl Jung. The basic version of the MBTI that we use today is a questionnaire with 93 questions. Each question asks you to consider 2 options and choose the one that's most comfortable for you. For example, one question might be, do you find that being around a lot of other people usually makes you feel energized or makes you feel drained? After you've answered all the questions and your assessment has been scored, you receive your 4-letter personality type code. For example, ESTJ. So let's look at what those 4 letters mean. The MBTI model breaks down personality into 4 discrete mental functions. And for each of those 4 functions, there are 2 possible ways that a person may prefer to perform that function. The first letter in the personality type code represents where you prefer to focus your attention and where you get your energy from. The 2 preferences are called extroversion and introversion. People who prefer extroversion like to focus on the outer world of people and action. They often prefer to communicate by talking, and they're energized by being around other people. People who prefer introversion like to focus on the inner world of thoughts and ideas. They often prefer to communicate in writing, and they're energized by spending time alone. An important principle is that even though we each have a favorite choice within each preference pair that's most comfortable for us, we can always use the other preference whenever we need to. For example, we all extrovert sometimes and we all introvert sometimes, depending on the situation. But most of us prefer one or the other. If you prefer extroversion, then the first letter of your type code will be E. If you prefer introversion, then the first letter will be I. Of course, one preference is not better or worse than the other. They each have their strengths and their potential blind spots. The next letter in your type code represents how you prefer to take in information from the outside world. The 2 preferences here are sensing and intuition. People who prefer sensing like to take in information that is real and tangible through their senses, and they often focus on practical realities. People who prefer intuition like to see the big picture, and they often focus on patterns and possibilities. Sensing is represented by an S, and intuition is represented by an N. Again, we all use both of these approaches at one time or another, but each of us prefers one or the other. The 3rd letter in your type code represents your preferred way of making decisions. People who prefer thinking when making a decision are usually more logical and analytical. They step back from a situation to make a decision objectively. People who prefer feeling when making a decision usually consider what's important to themselves and to others. They step into a situation to see how their decision will affect people. Now, don't get hung up on the terms thinking and feeling. Those are just labels to describe the 2 different approaches to making decisions. Of course, everyone thinks and everyone feels. The last letter represents how you prefer to approach the outside world. People who have a preference for judging like to live in a planned, orderly way. Their lives are usually structured and organized. People who have a preference for perceiving like to live in a flexible, spontaneous way. They want to experience life as it happens, and detailed plans often feel constraining to them. Once again, these words are just labels. A preference for judging does not mean a person is judgmental. So let's say you've taken the assessment and now you know your personality type code. What's next? Knowing your type code can help you at work, in your personal life, and in your relationships. We're often frustrated when other people don't think or communicate or make decisions the same way that we do. Understanding the ways that normal, healthy people can be different from each other can help move us from frustration to acceptance and finally to appreciation. If we understand our differences, we can work together and combine our strengths. At 3 Mountain Learning, our mission is to help people become better communicators, better team members, and better leaders by developing an understanding and appreciation for the ways that different people see and experience the world differently. The MBTI is an important tool that we use to achieve this objective.